So Amar here is a management consultant. He is currently working at Kearney at the Dubai office, and he's, I think, right now on his vacations. He's, I think, somewhere in Italy, but he was gracious enough to come to this watering hole and like present on.
You're in Italy?
Yeah, right now he's in Italy.
I used to live in Marseille.
I wasn't sure what part of Italy that is.
Yeah, so he'll probably have a presentation on how the management consulting industry has been impacted by AI and what the future looks like. So
Excellent.
yeah. So why don't we go around the room and everyone introduce themselves? So Ahmed, do you have anything to say about yourself?
No, thank you so much, Saad. Very graceful of you. As Saad said that I'm currently on vacation, so sorry for not following the dressing decorum of the meeting. And happy to be here. It's 11 p.m. my time, so I'm sure it's a good morning for you guys. So have a lovely day ahead. And as I already introduced, I'm Amar. I graduated in 23, and since then I've been working as a management consultant at Kearney. And yeah, that's about it.
So why don't you introduce yourself?
Okay, so I'm Roger Molina. I was originally an astrophysicist working for NASA, building satellites and mapping the sky. Then I became the editor of a journal at MIT Press called Leonardo, which published the work of people that brought art, science, and technology together, which led me to this job here at UT Dallas with the stepping stone in Marseille, where I run the ArtSciLab and the Center for Emergent Studies. And so what we're mostly interested in at the moment is looking around the complex systems that we're part of to see what's emerging. It's kind of like a combination of a think tank and an observatory. And it turns out one of the things that's emerging, I'm giving a talk, is there is the number of faculty over 65 years has doubled in the last 10 years. So it used to be in many companies and organizations, people were forced to retire at 65. But that's not happening anymore or as much. And so it's an interesting emergence. I'm 75, but I'm working with 20-year-olds and 30-year-olds. And so one of the interesting things that's emerging is that the business market is changing in universities. Thank you.
You just talk. I'm Abbas Botwala. I'm a business analytics and AI master's student currently in the second semester. I'm here to attend the watering hole. Just curious about new ideas, technology.
Hi, I'm Omer. Ahmed. I'm a senior here at the School of Management, studying global business and marketing, and also work part-time for the ArtSciLab as the marketing events manager and help put on various events, including the watering holes, which are trends. We have theme talks every other week, where we invite people from industry and from academia and from different settings to talk about just emerging trends and ways that we can network with professionals so we can learn and see what's the latest in the industry. So thank you for joining us, Amar.
And just for permission, we do record it. Most of our audience is online. We publish on a platform called Creative Disturbance.
But thank you so much. Thank you so much, Omer and the team. It's lovely being here. So I think since you're slightly delayed anyway, I will go right into the presentation. And don't judge my presentation skills with it. I'm a better consultant when I'm making presentations, but unfortunately, the timings of the session did not align better with my vacation plans. But let me know when you can see it.
Yeah.
We see it.
Okay. Sounds good. So essentially, I think I see consulting as a function of 5 different things. And that's how I see how much has that been impacted in terms of AI and the resurgence of artificial intelligence. And here I also want to mention a caveat that although I do say AI as a liberal term, and emphasize that most of it is driven by Gen AI, which is maybe slightly different than the larger AI that we're talking about. And the 5 parts, which I'll spend most of my time on: first, research and synthesize, analyze the data, present the findings and the data that we do, manage the stakeholders, and learn from the team experience. I'll get to the last one at the last, of course. And some to research and synthesize. So whenever one thing that consulting is not, and a lot of people get it wrong in terms of is not, we are not bold enough. Because one thing that we don't do is completely bring up new ideas. What we do is, first thing and most common thing that we do is benchmark stuff as to what's going on in the US, what's going on in Singapore, and things like that. First, to do that, we of course need a lot of research. And firstly, if someone asked me to do a benchmarking exercise, it would maybe take me like 5 days to do it. In the current scenario, I can probably do it in 2 days, just because I can use tools such as Perplexity or such as ChatGPT to find the right answers in a short amount of time. That's why I personally feel, and of course, this is my judgment as a consultant, is that this research and synthesizing part has been highly impacted since we have seen Gen AI or AI in general. Of course, that also means sometimes it's a matter of, let's say, I have, let's say, a PDF to read. Now, this PDF is 30 pages long. I'll also give this PDF to Notion, for example, or Notebook, not Notion, sorry, to Notebook, and ask it to, let's say, sort of summarize it for me so I can go through it, or ask them the rightful questions. So in my head, this is what, let's say, people who join directly after their masters, directly after their undergrad, this is what they are doing 80% of the day. So if you're someone who is, let's say, in Nutri Dallas, trying to break into consulting, keep in mind that if you don't know how to optimize ChatGPT or Perplexity, you are probably going to struggle at the job. Primarily because 90% of your peers are already doing that. And for example, at Kearney or even at other firms outside Kearney, every company at this point understands its consultants use it, and it's a productivity tool that they use it as. The second thing is analyze the data, which I've kept at Medium.
Excuse me. Quickly, what do the colored dots on each line mean?
Oh, the low, medium, high risk.
So I think it's in terms of the impact that they have, and it's a judgment call in my head.
Okay, so research and synthesis is high impact, but you mentioned that the synthesis was impacted, but not everything.
Sorry, come again. I didn't follow that question.
No, you said that the synthesis of the research was impacted by AI, but the research itself was not impacted.
No,
I might have come across wrong. I think both of them are equally impacted. Maybe research is more impacted.
And how do you decide what to research?
So, for example, I want to benchmark the top 10 universities in the world right now. And there are 5 matrices I have: number of students, let's say. Let's also say the type of campus they have, type of campus facilities, the level of professors, XYZ, XYZ. And I want to benchmark them across top 10 universities in the world. And for me to do that, it would have taken me 5 days to go into each website, see the facilities that they have, and then put them into some logical conclusion. But now,
how did you decide to research that question rather than one of 6,000 other questions? AI cannot help you decide what question to research.
Yeah.
I disagree. I think it can. So let's say whenever you are, let's say, going to research, at least that's how I use it. I tell them this is my main goal. This is the end goal that I'm trying to get at, which is to see which is the best university out there. How do you think should I benchmark that? And AI will say, okay, you have these 100 options. And then obviously I have to brainstorm with it to come to that right synthesis, whether these 5 are the best one that I have or no. One term that we consultants tend to use a lot is called being messy. And maybe AI is not the right tool to be entirely messy, which means mutually exclusive and collectively exhaustive. So maybe AI is not able to do that entirely, but with human brain and human intervention, where we brainstorm together, I think it pretty much helps me. The job that was previously being done by me and my manager is now being done by me and my ChatGPT, for example.
So you're usually like given a certain topic you need to research based on the client, right? So that's where that topic that you need to research comes from,
I
right?
think this is what Roger was.
I think that's what he was.
Yeah, who chooses the
Yeah, he
topic?
was asking.
Yeah, once you want to study universities, I understand the synthesis and research can be done by the AI. But I mean, why not high schools? Why not sports facilities? Why not?
Fair.
Is it okay if
Fair. I think. Go ahead. I'm sorry to
Yeah.
cut you off.
So, what Roger was asking before was how do you choose that topic? Like, why are you specifically looking for what are the top universities in US? Like, what motivated you to do that? Like, why specifically this market?
Fair. I think Omer answered it well that it's mostly the clients. They do that part. But if I was to put myself in the shoes of clients, why are we doing that? It's mostly, I would say, global driven. Like, for example, if let's say globally, we have seen a shift in use of AI in military. Of course, within Middle East, for example, they would also want to see that and benchmark that part. So it's mostly client driven. That overarching question that is definitely client driven, but at the same time, it's driven by how the world is evolving. For example, now most of the studies around AI or like even generally would consist of things that are, let's say, I don't know, would also consider an impact of 3D printing, deep fakes, and all of those things as well, just because the world is evolving towards that. Um, I hope I answered the question as to the best of my abilities. But yeah,
So the client comes to you with a question.
definitely. They come with the question essentially, as in what is that they want answer of.
So, I have another question. I'm sorry.
No,
Is
go
it
ahead.
right now? Yeah. So, do you always start your research when a client comes to you with a question, or do you like do it like beforehand? So, to capture a market, for instance, you want to get into education, so you do your research with that and then bring it to the client yourself, like sort of taking an initiative before the client comes to you.
Fair, that's a good question. So whenever that's obviously one part of consulting is to make it client driven, which is what the projects that we do. But a huge part of consulting is also, which is the fifth part, which is learn from the team experience, which is improving your knowledge repository. So what happens is essentially, if let's say we see an emerging trend, for example, again I'm using this example of military, but essentially using of autonomous weapons in military right now. And because of that, we see this as a a growing trend, and we want to improve our knowledge repository. So it is very likely that someone's researching on it already, thinking of ideas to maybe put it in an article or put it in a slide deck for the internal firm. Or maybe, for example, a few days ago, I was working on an article regarding use of AI for career management, for example. And that this isn't internal, or that isn't a, let's say, thing that is being published by Kearney. It's more so being published on the national level. So it's the knowledge repository is very driven by what is eventually what type of clients you want to target. B, it is also what we think is trending around the world, and we would want people to have an opinion from us as well.
Yeah, that does answer the question, Ahmed. Thank you.
No worries, no worries. But yeah, the first part I think we discussed is pretty well. The second is analyzing the data or analyze the data, which is you have, for example, and which I think is is still not very highly impacted, primarily because you still get a lot of data in a raw form from the client, and you need to process it either through tools that already exist. For example, now Excel has also started integrating AI within the current model. So you could use that to analyze it further, but currently I wouldn't say it's very highly impacted when you receive the data and what kind of data it is. Present the findings and data itself. I think I mostly would center this around when you have all the answers, how do you present it to the client? One way is, of course, it helps you brainstorm how does the slide look like? How should the slide look like? If you have 10 ideas, how do you want to put it on the slide? The second thing I think it also helps you is just visualizing a few things that you would not be able to do it generally. So for example, if I want to show a trend of temperatures around the world, maybe it'd be a good idea for me to ask ChatGPT if that makes sense or not, or other tool if that makes sense or not. Um, and that's one way to use it for presenting your findings or data. The last one, I think, which is very low impact right now, and that might also be because I work in the Middle East market. Maybe within US or within Europe, this is highly impacted, or at least it could be much more impacted than we have currently, which is managing the stakeholders, which means scheduling the meeting, taking meeting notes, taking meeting notes, or even like writing emails and all of those things. I think it's a work in progress, and I think consulting. The reason why I would say that consulting is probably not likely to get as impacted as other industries is because of this part of the job, which is very important, is that understanding what the client needs and managing their expectations. Last one, I think you also sort of covered, which is learning from the team experience. So whenever we complete a project, our major task is twofold. One, to build a repository for teams to follow who would do similar project, let's say 5 years from now. The second one is how we can leverage our experience or whatever we have done today in the current project for the future projects in other countries or in other industries. And I think this is greatly impacted by AI because let's say we have our internal tools. Let's say if I want to do a project on a contact center, and Dubai, let's say, office has already done that. Then any office around the world, you can use the internal AI tools to sort of make a proposal for this particular, let's say, for this particular experience. For us, when I joined the consulting industry around 1 year ago, so around 2 years ago, it was that we had to find those things specifically. Now I can give a prompt to an internal AI tool and tell them to extract these specific slides with this kind of messaging if we have done any work, and it will do it for me. So I think that's how it's generally being impacted, and how it's a set of is just taking away the monotony of the job and putting you more into the thinking shoes, or the role of a consultant above you. And I think the second slide that I have essentially is the fact that beyond this,
Before you move on,
yes.
can you go back to your first slide?
There
So we have in our school several design professors who teach UX UI. And as I was trying to understand your first slide, the first line I tried to understand had the red dot. Because normally a red dot means stop here. A green light says don't bother to read this line. But in fact, you meant the opposite. AI has the huge impact on number 1 and a low impact on number 4. So was that done intentionally or unintentionally?
I think we come from different industries. So, and whenever we, that's how I'll put it.
Do you disagree with me that when you see something with red and green and yellow dots, yellow is a little bit, green is
like
red is no, and you made me think. I don't think AI thinks that way. If you show it different, or maybe it does. Does AI?
I think.
Reread?
Yeah, go ahead.
Does AI reread text you wrote in red and ignore text you wrote in green?
No, it depends on what instruction you're given.
What would be the default?
Well, the algorithm makes the decisions, not the human. So, okay, I'm sorry. I know it's no, but this is part of the interest of these watering holes. You're from the consulting world. We're from the art and design world, and so.
Some shared perspectives.
Yeah, and then I just kept saying, this is the line I've got to understand.
No, I think it's interesting. It's interesting that you notice it. So we in consulting world, we have two rules: show as less of a red as you can, always. So that's why we don't want to put it as a first, let's say, row here. I don't want to show you a red dot from the get-go because it will offset the reader. That's one thing that
the CEO of an AI company, I would focus on the market number 4 when nobody is doing it yet, managing the stakeholders. So
Fair.
don't show your talk to an AI company client, because the number one AI is already doing it. We don't want to compete with them.
Fair.
Okay, keep going. Sorry.
No worries. Essentially, the second slide was what type of tools are we currently using. Of course, these tools you might already be aware of that are used widely in consulting. But I think one thing that consulting firms have started doing, have not been able to do it entirely, is the fact that we have started making out internal tools. Of course, ChatGPT, Perplexity, all of these tools are great. Especially, they are great in the way that you can have enterprise function in ChatGPT. But one thing that I think a lot of consulting firms are finding their place in is to make their internal tools so strong that someone who is just into consulting, their job becomes much more about thinking rather than finding the right information. You should have the right information, and now it's time for you to synthesize and think about what you have, rather than going through a bunch of slides and going through a bunch of documents to find that information. But that's about it. Happy to take any questions that you might have. I will also drop my email in the chat box below. So if there's anyone who wants to reach out, since you mentioned that it will be uploaded online, happy to help them as well. I understand a lot of people also would want to join consulting as a tool post their masters. So if they need any help in that process, of course, which is not related to AI, but happy to help them in that endeavor.
I do have a question if no one else has.
Go ahead.
I'm assuming because you've worked in the MENA region and in the UAE region, so a lot of the projects that you've been handling were geographically restricted to that region, right?
Yeah. Yes and no. For example, my last project before that was actually in Brazil. So I'm working remotely with the Brazil team. So not really entirely MENA. And my last project or the last sort of gig I was working on was for Pakistan government. So not only MENA in that way, but you could say that 80 if I'm doing 80-20, then yes, 80% it's in MENA region.
Okay, so that actually leads me to my second question. So when you're working in the MENA region, specifically in the Middle East region, and then when you go out to another continent, let's say, for instance, South America, that you're working in Brazil, what kind of differences, less similarities you see there when you're working on different projects? Like, okay, so for instance, you're working in MENA region, this is what you have to do, but Brazil is a totally different picture because you have to do this XYZ things differently. So what's your experience been on that?
I mean, if I compare to European region, then we have to work thrice as hard. But if I compare to other regions of the world, then I would say it's. I mean, it's similar in the way that it's still consulting. It's still you have to still be messy and everything. It's different in the way the client expectations are different. So, for example, in MENA region in specific, it's a growing region. It's a developing economy that's moving from a strategy consulting or thinking about what's next. And in other regions, for example, in US or even North America in general, you are thinking more about how to be there. As in, you have the strategy. I want to make an AI robot that does everything in this world. You know that how to do it, but now you want people to do it for you, which you call towards strategy to implementation consulting. I think a lot of regions which are already mature are moving towards that, and which is what MENA is going towards as well, but it will take some time. I think that's different. But honestly, I'm not the right person to answer it because I've also primarily worked in one region. And maybe someone who has worked across region could probably better answer that.
Thank you so much.
That's a good question.
Oh, okay. Someone else has a
When
question.
you use AI, how does your company control privacy, security? How do you value it?
That's a very good question. So recently, for example, we now have a formal partnership with ChatGPT or Microsoft for that reason. that ensures the privacy and everything. That's one thing. The second thing is that we have a lot of trainings in terms of what information you can upload or you cannot upload online in terms of other uh, rules and regulations as well. But it's very tough. I think in the world that we're living in, data is it's evolving every day. What kind of data you can upload, what kind of data you cannot upload. These things are evolving, which is why the focus is growing, as I said, growingly become towards making your own internal tools, so that you don't have to worry about privacy. But I think it's a valid concern. I'm not sure as to what's being thought about it on a leadership level, but I see a move towards either more enterprise level partnerships that ensure that two high level organizations are keeping things very secure, or towards developing your own tool so that you can drive it internally.
You have control between the two companies, actually. Your
Sorry?
environment. You mentioned you have a collaboration with ChatGPT, so the control is down here. The level of setting, actually, whatever you use is already being controlled in a way.
I'm sorry, I didn't follow that question. If you could come.
How did you get an agreement with ChatGPT to control security? And what kind
I'm not sure, if I'm being honest, I don't know what's the level of agreement in terms of security. I know since MENA has a strict policy of keeping the data local, it's very local centric. So if any agreement with ChatGPT has been reached, it is likely that the data will remain local and it will remain with Kearney. But again, not the right person to answer this question in terms of what are the nitty-gritties of the agreement itself.
Yeah, thank you. Then how do you validate data once you get feedback and output from AIs? How do you know
So
whether
So essentially, there are two kind of ways that we validate it. One is, of course, that you validate it internally with teams who have worked on similar projects. The other thing that we do very actively at Kearney or any consulting firm is have experts. So, for example, if I have a pitch deck of, let's say, 10 pages, I'll likely go to an expert who is either internal through, let's say, hired who's worked internally only on these projects, or we have knowledge consultants who give us a particular kind of expert that we talk to over 2 calls, 3 calls, or 2-3 days, and ask them to validate what we have. It just ensures that whatever we are providing on a slide deck, except our own, let's say, logical sense, is also validated by the experts who have worked in the industry for the last 40-50 years.
Thank you.
Okay, follow up on that question. So in a couple of weeks, we have a lawyer who's a judge coming to speak for us. And there is now he's having to let people out of jail because they were falsely convicted because the lawyers used AI to summarize the evidence. And so he said there's a growing number of, the case comes to him, he says, is this person guilty or not? Well, the AI says, yes, it is. But then you go and, go talk to someone who was with them at the time, and the AI didn't talk to that person, and the person did not do it. And so he's very, and plus, part of his argument that we think machines never lie or forget, he sent people to jail because of rape and things based on DNA evidence on blood. But nobody tells you the error bar on the evidence. And 10 years later, they retest the blood. The error bar is now tiny, and it wasn't that person who raped the person. And so he had to let the person out of jail. And so I think your category 1, the research and analysis, you need to be careful about.
No, 100% I agree. I think it's thankfully we are not convicting someone.
Yeah,
so
his
that
other
really
claim
helps.
is it's just getting worse and worse and worse with time, because the AI is just full of false information and inaccurate information, and nobody ever asked the error bar on something, plus or minus.
100%.
You have red,
no doubt
yellow,
about it.
green dots, but they probably overlap.
100%. I think I agree.
Okay.
It's still a work in
Okay,
progress
sorry.
in many ways.
Go ahead.
Yeah. So, does anyone else have any questions? I think you're good, Amar. Thank you so much for presenting, taking
Of
out
course.
time.
Thank you so much, Saad. Have a nice day.
Thank you.
Zephyr, can you hear us?
Yes, I can. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you as well. So, Zephyr, why don't you like introduce yourself? What do you do, and what are you working on currently? Stuff like that, like some sort of a short introduction, if you don't mind.
Yeah, absolutely. And what's the agenda? When do I present to?
That's your call. We have another presentation by Omer before you, but if you want to present right now and then Omer
Yeah, I'm fine.
afterwards, you can do it.
Before.
Like that's
Up to you.
completely your call.
Yeah.
Or if you want, we can like go around the room and introduce ourselves, because this would be uploaded from our end as well. So a lot of people will be watching it post the event happens.
Yeah.
Yeah, fantastic. I'm Huzaifa, based in Michigan area.
Okay.
Metro Detroit, actually. Abbas is a friend of mine. Hey, nice to see you again. I have a drug development AI software we've developed and working on scaling. It just automates a big bottleneck within the clinical trial industry. And if Omer, brother Omer, if you are okay with me going first, I might have to hop off soon. My brother actually had a son today, a couple hours ago.
Yeah,
Great.
congratulations.
Alhamdulillah.
Thank you so much even coming for this after that.
Yeah, happy to.
If you can also kind of, a lot of people don't know what IQVIA does. I'm interning at AstraZeneca, so familiarity, because IQVIA on a consulting basis is on a project with us. But maybe if you can start with what does IQVIA do, and how they help support pharma companies in the broader industry.
Yeah, absolutely. So pharma is, let's zoom out, right? You have biotech right here. Within biotech, you have a big industry within drug development, right? Now, drug development has several phases, from the preclinical to postclinical to wet lab to market, go-to-market strategies. And now that's broken off into 3 different hierarchies. You have, so now, right? So you have biotech, you have drug development. Now within drug development, we're looking at pharma. So pharma, the hierarchy goes, you have pharma, then you have CROs, and then you have SMOs. Not necessarily one is better than another, but that's kind of how it operates, and it goes this way. So pharma, they go through decades of research with many different drugs, and then part of their go-to-market strategy is to use analytics and CROs, right? So IQVIA is a combination of a big data company combining and merging with formerly known as Quintiles, which is a big CRO, a clinical research organization, right? So that's kind of their go-to-market strategy. They do consulting on both the data side, they give their data to firms like AstraZeneca, and then they also help the drug come to market through clinical trials. And then you have the SMO, which is a site management organization. SMOs, if you know of any, would be any network of clinical trial sites. If you look at MD Anderson in Houston, I'm sure Dallas Health System also has a couple SMOs within. Some of them will have different names, but they can be embedded within hospitals, they can be group practices, they can be private, public sector, nonprofit, and all of them are doing clinical trials. So that's kind of how it works, the partnership between pharma and CROs, also known as IQVIA. IQVIA is one of the bigger players in the game. AstraZeneca also is one of the bigger pharma players in the game. AstraZeneca, Pfizer, Merck, Regeneron. Then when you get closer to mid-size, there's a lot of mid-size once you get past like the top 50 or top 100 big ones. Make sense?
Yeah. So if you don't mind, I have a very silly question, because I'm not very well aware of like how the ranking works in the pharma industry. Yeah. So IQVIA, right? Am I pronouncing it right?
Yeah, you are. And did you want me to pull up my slide deck, or?
Yeah, that would
Great as well. So IQVIA primarily does consulting, or does it also like work in the pharma research as well?
So they do both. IQVIA's portfolio has over 100 items that they're in. But if you want to look at it loosely, like zooming out higher level, so that's like the main distinction right there, right? Where you have pharma and then you have CROs and you have SMOs. IQVIA is a bit different because it combines aspects from all three, right? There has to be at least 5, 10, even upwards of a dozen mergers, acquisitions within IQVIA to increase their portfolio. So they do bleed into the other areas in drug development. But if you look at a traditional company, they're just going to focus on the consulting and clinical research as well.
Okay.
Yeah, IQVIA's don't think of IQVIA, think of a standard CRO.
Okay. Thank you so much. And if you want to pull up your slides, that would
Can
be
I
great.
ask a question?
Yeah, sure.
Hey, Uzafa, how are you?
Hey, Abbas, what's going on?
Could you explain what drug consulting exactly is for like a layman?
So that's actually a loaded question. So drug consulting, every side of drug consulting can be different. It kind of goes also into life science consulting. So which area? Well, it depends. What's the goal, right? So what's the end goal for the consulting that you're asking about?
For example, if you have let's say the COVID-19 vaccine. So how do you consult that with other companies? Like how do you go about the consulting process?
And which part of the process are you looking at? Are you looking at wet lab, pre-market, post-market?
From the start to end. Like I have no idea.
Okay, from start to end, that's a different
Well,
conversation for different time. But okay, let's zoom through it, right? So they bench research, they find something that works on COVID-19, they do clinical trials, they do consulting on that end, then they bring to market, do consulting on that end. Every step of the process, they have a lot of data, a big bank of data as a data company as well, and they do consulting on the data end. And using that data, they'll make better drugs, right? So first go, they found this is like 40% effective, then 60% effective. How do they get to the point where it's like 98% right? 98% accuracy and viability to work. It's
okay.
yeah, so it's a long process. So a lot of iterations back and forth, a lot of data back and forth, a lot of consulting at every stage. And you have to remember that every company has its own pipeline. So if you're asking me about AstraZeneca, it would be different than Amgen. It would be different than Pfizer. And you'd have to really break in and have a lot of case studies about what their process is. And mind you, all of these companies have very different pipelines because they're competing. So their pipelines are very that's a very sacred to them, right? They protect that information and they make sure to differentiate themselves with their pipelines. Does that help?
Yeah, that.
Yeah.
I think you can start with your slide.
Yeah, sounds good. Yeah, and I mean, if ever someone does have more questions, I'm also happy just to do a Q&A, whichever is more helpful. So I'm happy to go either way. I have a breakdown, and this will give a little bit of insights to what I spoke about. Is everyone able to see my screen?
Yes, we can.
All right, so discussing AI's transformative influence on industries. Right, so we're going to focus mainly on cycle time compression, risk reduction, and the universal application within pharma, which comes within biotech, and also looking at an adjacent industry, fintech. So pharmaceutical value chain, kind of off of Omer and Abbas's question here. So you have the discovery, design, site selection, trial execution, and then safety reporting. All of these processes can be automated. At every step of the way, there is consulting involved. There's a lot of data involved. And with a constant molding, remolding, they get you what you know as, your vaccines, your COVID-19, Tylenol, everything that you see on the market. So there's protocol eligibility within clinical trials. Everyone knows what Microsoft Copilot is, ChatGPT. So think about that, but within the context for a study design and study protocol to determine whether a patient is a good fit for a pre-market drug. And intelligent patient matching, right? So think of a community, how we have Facebook, how we have LinkedIn for jobs. Now, this is with the intention to match patients to different drugs, to doctors, to different companies and pipelines. And now AI can automate a lot of the process to do that in a plethora of different ways, very open-ended, but that is one another application. Safety reporting. So AI can draft narratives, human review and validation, and compliance and submission. So safety reporting, you have 10,000 queries for different studies within a cardiology study. AI can help you, one, data clean. Second, go-to-market strategies. It can quantify the information for you based on region. And then it can give you both quantitative and qualitative information. And everything that was done previously was manual. Very manual work. You have a lot of doctors, a lot of pharmacologists, a lot of very well-studied PhDs. And with their information and their knowledge paired with AI, you can automate that whole process. So you're not just 5-10xing the process. You can combine hundreds and hundreds of reports and safety information, meaning when something happens in a clinical trial and something goes wrong anywhere in the world, it's known as a safety report, also as a SUSAR, as they call it. This safety report is key because it tells you potential adverse events that can happen within the drug. Make sense?
If you don't mind, I have a question.
Absolutely, go ahead.
When you're using AI, as you've told me, because to sort of sift through different researches, that saves you a lot of time and like sort of clean that data for you, right? So I'm gonna focus specifically on the research side. How much do you trust the AI to do it for you? Like, to what extent do you take it forward with the AI? Specifically the research side, or do you vet it afterwards as well? And if you're vetting it afterwards, doesn't that take double the amount of time because you go to AI, get some information, and you have to vet it yourself? But if you don't do it, it might impact clinical trials, etc., etc.
That depends, and it's a constant back and forth of how much can you rely on AI, and then how much do you need human insight, right? Human oversight, human insight to reach in. And you're never going to have either, right? You're never going to have, with AI in the market, people are never just going to do it 100% themselves manually, but they're also not going to rely fully on AI and just throw it off and then just trust that it's going to do exactly what it's supposed to do theoretically and just leave everything to that. So it's constantly going to be a struggle between the two. And it's about finding that sweet intermediate. The struggle is always going to be there, won't go away, at least not for now, until we find that perfect AI product.
Yeah. So just another silly question, if you have to give us a ballpark percentage of how much people in the pharma trust the current sort of level of AI, what would that be like? Would that be a good?
Yeah. No idea. Every company would vary.
Okay. And what about you guys?
Also varies.
Okay. Got it.
Yeah. As new AI models are coming out every few months, every year, it's exponential, right? How much more AI can be implemented. So although AI is being leaned on more, it's really hard to say without until the market slows down, which it hasn't. Right now the market's on that exponential trajectory with AI.
Yeah, I think we can carry on. Thank you so much for responding to that.
Yeah, absolutely. So now looking at biotech, there's a lot of technologies and a lot of labs that can also be sped up with AI, and it just makes the whole process a lot easier. Now, a couple parallels, right? In fintech, you have credit risk engines, you have fraud detection systems, payment processing, and you have AML compliance. So compliance can be automated with AI. The regulatory can be automated with AI. The different risks that you have, the same way that you have safety reporting for potential risk, adverse events that can happen with patients, you also have these risks within fintech. And AI, although it's within a different vertical, can also be applied to all these areas. These are an estimate of metrics about what AI can do right now in the present for products in the industry. This is a very ballpark range. There's a lot of variation from company to company, product to product, and also trial. Some drugs are known to have very high efficacy. Some products, if you even hit a few percent, 5-10%, you're miles ahead of the industry, just because some drugs are so hard to develop. Students or professionals, just know the fundamentals of AI, get yourself into mini workflows within the industry, and build your portfolio. And AI doesn't replace experts, it scales them. This is a nice picture of Cincinnati, thought I would put on here. And here's my LinkedIn if anybody would like to follow.
Oh, you're in Cincinnati?
I'm in Michigan, but frequently travel to Cincinnati for trips.
Okay. Does IQVIA have a big presence there, or?
IQVIA doesn't have a big presence per se. There's no building, but a lot of my clients are in Cincinnati.
I'm from Cincinnati. That's fine.
Oh, very nice. Very nice. Yeah. And Muhammad, you said that this is recorded?
Yeah.
Okay, so I'll leave that up here for a second, and there we go. Any questions before I hop off?
Yeah, sorry. So I might have one. So one of your slides mentioned that how can you get into like this industry, and specifically how students can like plan it out if you want to get into the healthcare industry or the pharma industry. Can you please elaborate more on that? Like, does it necessarily have to be for students who are coming from hardcore STEM, or can anyone like from different areas of studies sort of join pharma, or for that matter, IQVIA?
The biotech industry is so vast and drug development is so vast, anyone from any industry is able to join. Now, you have to see how can you couple your knowledge for the industry, right? When it comes to, if you're really good at finance, there's a lot of contracts, a lot of finance documents within the industry. If you're really good at law, regulatory compliance, the most stringent regulatory compliance is probably drug development, pharmaceuticals, fintech, and DoD, right? These are three big areas where compliance is very high. If you're a doctor, you're a pharmacist. If you're an engineer, there's a lot of machinery that needs to be made, right? Within biotech. If you want to do robotics, medical devices is huge, and medical devices is almost seen adjacent to this because medical devices goes into its own silos, right? You have to have completely different expertise to do medical devices, which pharmaceutical companies work with, right? Medtronics is a big one. Medtronics, you have Medtronics, and you have another big one that's based in Michigan, but it's Stryker. So anyone can get in. It's really about deciding what your long-term goals are and how you can embed yourself within that ecosystem. If you're not able to convince someone that you have a true passion for this ecosystem and you want to stay in here, it's going to be difficult to break in, right? Because every single ecosystem has a plethora of problems, but you can be successful in all of them. You can use the same skills and go into finance and fintech. You can use the same skills, go into pharmaceuticals, into automotive. It's really about finding a use case.
True. Does anyone else have any other questions? You have a question? Amar, are you good?
So your primary work is in clinical trials. Is that what your emergence research institute? Because you have your own company and you also work for IQVIA. So how do you balance? Also, how do you balance that? That's my second question.
There's no balance. There's no balance. Yeah, you figure it out day by day, and that's how it is. Does that let me know if you'd like me to elaborate more. Happy to elaborate.
Yeah. So like for the clinical trials piece, is that is that your company that's doing most of that? And then for IQVIA, are you doing more of a consulting role, or are you doing the same thing in both roles? I just kind of wanted to understand a little bit of the difference.
My company, yes, focus on the clinical trial space within drug development. Within IQVIA, I'm also focused on consulting within clinical trials.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, hi everyone. I'm Ahmed. I am an intern right now at AstraZeneca in the project management team on medical innovation strategy operations, which is, we call it MIST. It's our company acronym for in global medical affairs and oncology. And I'm just going to talk a little bit first about what AstraZeneca does, what we aim to do, and then a little bit about oncology. And then we'll get into kind of my project that I'm working on, as well as what the impact of kind of data science and AI has on our company, and specifically what we're doing in oncology, because we have our own oncology team that's working on digital commercial health solutions, so in R&D and in also the oncology business unit. So first, let's talk about AstraZeneca. Well, I guess our mission is that we want to push the boundaries of science so we can deliver life-changing medications and life-changing medications to patients all over the world, even in rural communities and areas where access to medications, it's pretty hard for a lot of people. So we have a lot of initiatives aimed at kind of going into communities and increasing access to life-changing medications. So that is our overall business initiative, I guess, from an entire AstraZeneca pipeline perspective, both biopharma, oncology, rare disease. But our strategic priorities, we have so many, but I think the three main ones is we want to be a great place to work. The people, when I was there interning, even everyone is so motivated and wants to be at AstraZeneca and wants to impact patients and their lives. And then we deliver growth and therapy area leadership. We're always participating in studies, soliciting sponsors for studies and clinical trials. And then we're always very innovative in our approaches, and so accelerate innovative, and we're very scientific in nature. We have these very interesting values that kind of every employee embodies at AstraZeneca. We follow the science. We're always pushing the boundaries of science. Our R&D teams are always looking for new ways in which we can, even with existing medications, that's kind of what medical does. They'll take an existing medication that R&D might have and find a new use case for it. So if it's used for HER2-positive breast cancer, maybe we can also expand the indication. So that's what medical does. They'll help expand indications that R&D has already put on the market. And then we put patients first because, we want to serve patients and consider them in every decision we take. That's why every pharma company, including AZ, has a patient affairs team that just thinks about things from a patient's perspective and deals with also some of the patients in clinical trials. And we play to win. We're determined to make the right choices so we can accelerate our growth and build high-performing teams. And we do the right thing. We are always accountable for our actions, and as a collective, we are making or breaking the success of AZ. So we need to make sure that as a team, we kind of do the right thing, because we always have to have patience in mind at the end of everything. And then we're very entrepreneurial. We're brave. We take risks, but we take smart risks. And then we act with urgency, and we simplify the way things should be done. And that's one of the projects I'm working on is just taking what we already do and simplifying it and making it a more streamlined process. And just a little bit about our structure. We have a presence in more than 100 countries. The global HQ for AstraZeneca is in Cambridge, UK, and we're the fastest growing top 10 multinational pharmaceutical company, especially in emerging markets. And these are our leading therapy areas. Oncology is cancer care. And then biopharma is, we have CVRM, which is cardiovascular, renal, metabolic, respiratory, immunology, and then vaccines and immunotherapies, which one of our big ones is FluMist, since we're the only producer of FluMist, which is the only vaccination of the flu where you can actually take it through your nose. All the other vaccines are all through intravenous. And FluMist recently got also approved to be taken at home, so you can actually order your kit.
Is it over the market?
Yeah, you can order it online actually.
Oh,
It's at flumist.com. Yeah. And then there's the rare disease unit, which is Alexion Pharmaceuticals, which AstraZeneca acquired Alexion, and they're in Boston. So we've been talking a little bit about our R&D centers, and these centers have the unique ability to also commercialize drugs and research. So there's R&D and there's also the commercialization aspect, so the sales and marketing teams. So Gaithersburg is our primary. I mean, I like to say Gaithersburg is the primary HQ, but really on paper it's Wilmington, Delaware, which is our HQ for the US for AstraZeneca, and that's where our biopharmaceutical business unit sits and the biopharma R&D team sits mainly. There's some oncology there, but mainly oncology is in Gaithersburg, and there's a lot of R&D and there's a lot of commercial sales and marketing people that sit in Gaithersburg. Boston right now has Alexion's headquarters, which is our rare disease unit. But we're also AstraZeneca itself is building a huge office in Kendall Square in Boston. So we'll combine the AstraZeneca and Alexion teams together. And Cambridge is our home. The Discovery Center is AstraZeneca's global corporate headquarters. Gothenburg, we also have a strategic R&D and biotech innovation center there. And Shanghai has now become a very important R&D center, and for us, where a lot of our employees sit. That's also where our EVP of International sits. So we can bring China's innovation to the world. So now that I've given you a little overview of what AstraZeneca does, now let's talk a little bit about what AI is doing in AstraZeneca. And mainly, since I'm in oncology, I know a lot about what's going on in oncology. So let's talk about AI in AstraZeneca, especially in oncology. So, AI is being used across so many different ways in AstraZeneca. I mean, we have AZ ChatGPT, which a lot of people are using for. I have some project managers that are on our broader team. They use it for study governance protocols. So like we'll have studies that we're partaking in, and sometimes we have longer documents, and then AI will analyze it. Or if we'll use it as a research assistant, where we use it to help us research about a given topic. So there's so many use cases. But in oncology, we have a commercial digital health team, which kind of has 3 different subdivisions that they work under. And MarTech is one of them, which is our platform for digital marketing and customer experience. And it's all about how AZ interacts with our stakeholders, not just to sales, but by enhancing every digital touch point. And the focus is really on deploying advanced marketing technologies to improve engagement, deliver tailored content, and provide a seamless experience to healthcare professionals and patients. So this is primarily used a lot by the oncology marketing and sales team, which is a really big part of the pipeline. And then there's medical, and then there's R&D. So, but this is for specifically our marketing, sales, and marketing team. But the AZ Brain tool is also another one, I guess, that's really tailored for the sales side of commercial. which is a field tool, and it will basically take patient data and specifically patient claim data, and it will provide actionable insights to sales people, and it gives salespeople a little bit better of an understanding of their territory, the patients in their territory, the challenges those patients have, and maybe the opportunities that they have. And it's only a field tool right now, but it will continue to mature and expand. And then we have digital health solutions, which it's more focused on working with the healthcare institutions, hospitals, payers, and tech partners to improve diagnosis and patient care in disease state and also above brand initiatives. So medical is doing a lot of this as well. Like we have an innovation to care team in our broader innovation strategy operations group, and they're helping update guidelines in some countries where guidelines are a little behind, so that way our medications and even other companies' medications can get in the market faster. But these are just 3 work streams. Yeah.
You told that you have like a private GPT too. Private chatbot.
Yeah, we have our own AZ Chat GPT. Actually, these are the tools we have access to at AstraZeneca. We have access to a lot of different tools.
AZ Chat GPT is a subsidiary of Chat GPT.
Yeah, it's OpenAI's Chat GPT, but
Have you partnered with it
It as your own.
as your own tool?
I don't know.
It's
I know we have it is our own tool, but it's not our own tool, right? Because it's using OpenAI's the database,
Like it's so.
but it's our own GPT. Like it's a custom GPT.
Okay. Can I use it if I go online? Like write AZ chat GPT. Okay.
Probably not like chat. I don't know if you can.
Another question comes, like you working at AstraZeneca, you will be handling like a lot of medical data.
Not me specifically, because I'm more in the bit
No,
like.
but like
Right. But like yeah, someone at the
Generally-
AstraZeneca would be.
so using the AZ Chat GPT would be using the database of Chat GPT itself, OpenAI itself, which is like a public database. So how would you protect the data?
Well, the AC Chat GPT is a closed environment. It's only used, but it's not able to be used by AZ employees, and you can't use it outside. Like, I don't think I can log into that outside of my work computer, right? And then so AZ Chat GPT is a proprietary. Like most companies are developing in-house. They might use like OpenAI's database, but it's like an in-house tool. And then you have to be very careful about what you upload. So we have a lot of commercial IT restrictions on like.
Got it.
But I think like the question I want to ask might be a bit better directed to someone who's working in the tech part
Yeah.
of AstraZeneca.
Yeah.
But if you have any sort of knowledge on that, then do let me know. Like whatever you're uploading on AZ Chat GPT, does the generic Chat GPT use that data to make itself better? And if it does, doesn't that like sort of leak your data to the world?
And this is a great question to ask when if we have the digital health team. Zoning service team, so like commercial digital health, because they'll know a lot about that. But yeah, I mean these enterprise tools usually like they're very strict about what we can and we can't upload. And usually it's just solicit advice on things, and it might have some proprietary data that we upload into it. But I think there are boundaries. Like it doesn't. I don't think that data is fed back into the AI model.
Another thing is that you're telling me that you're using Microsoft Copilot as well. That's a public tool as well.
Yeah, I mean,
But I think that's not.
and it actually, well, it's not enterprise wide right now. Like only we have very few licenses on that, but like we use Copilot for so many different things. But what the really best use case so far has been is that like a lot of the people that have Copilot can ask Copilot, can you tell me what Mayan or someone said about XYZ at this meeting? And it will, it's in your meetings and it will give you
Those.
So you don't even have to take that detailed notes anymore, because Copilot does such a good job. I mean, it does better than this tool that we have in this meeting called Read AI, which I have a subscription for, which UTD endorses it. But yeah. And I don't know what the other tools because I've never used them, and they're usually used a lot by the AZ
AV
people.
and then Microsoft Copilot.
Yeah, so I mean, these are the enterprise tools are what I use. Like I only use AZ ChatGPT right now,
Okay.
but I'm trying to explore more tools. And then I'm working on this project called the KEE Symphony, which it's kind of a collaborative effort between oncology and on a high level, really, because I can't really get into the details of the project, but I will say it's like a collaborative effort between oncology R&D and oncology business unit, which is the OBU, where we're trying to basically make processes more efficient. We're using this technology solution right now that we want to use Viva Workflow and Viva Link Key People eventually. But right now we're using Excel to plan engagements. So if you look at kind of, let me just show you what we're doing right now. We have a bunch of engagements with doctors and healthcare professionals, and we're using this Excel sheet, and there's hundreds of people that will come in and edit data. And it gets very chaotic very fast, right? And then you don't have these reporting capabilities. So now, since we're at such a bigger level with congresses, we attend so many congresses, we need a better solution. So that's kind of where we're evaluating so many different vendors. And it's really, I think we've kind of decided on one, but it's really just to make this process more efficient on how we plan engagements with KEs or key external experts. And so that's like the vision of this whole project is that we want to plan and show up as one AZ and work with a broad set of KEs, make sure our KE engagements are objective driven and that they create value for AZ and the KEs and that KE engagements are flawlessly planned and executed. So I think I'll just show a little bit about these are the overall goals of the project. Is that we have this system called Viva Workflow, which allows you to kind of enter your engagements, but you can do a lot of different things like restrict certain people from seeing it, or like medical usually doesn't want. Like commercial might have some objectives, sales and marketing team might have some objectives they don't want our medical teams to see or our R&D teams. So you can do that and you can kind of like use one workflow because right now you have maybe like hundreds of Excel sheets for one Congress and like R&D might be using their own and then each franchise is using their own. But if we make all of the tumor franchises from lung, breast, and hematology all use this one centralized tool and they have to report all of their engagements in this template that we have and they just select their tumor franchise, that will make things a lot easier because now I know who I'm engaging and some doctors might be able to cover more than one therapy area. So we're not overutilizing the doctors now. So it's just making sure that we all know what we're doing and who we're engaging. So it's at the end of the day, it's all about just making sure that we don't fragment and because that's sort of kind of what's happening right now is that breast has their own sheet and lung has their own sheet and we want to bring everyone on one central platform where they can report. So it's really we've identified kind of I think Viva as the primary one, but there are so many platforms that do this and that was the idea of this whole project is that we want people across all of oncology to use one central reporting tool.
So are you done?
Yeah, but that's primarily like what I kind of wanted to go over.
Okay. So if you don't mind me asking, like if you can share what your day-to-day looks like at AstraZeneca.
Yeah. Right now, we just like procured the software solution. So a day-to-day, it varies, but usually it's a lot of independent work, like trying to map out, like right now we're mapping out user groups, user personas for the software and also defining a rollout plan because now we have procured the software. So now we need to roll it out for the next Congress, which I think we're planning to pilot this at San Antonio Breast Cancer Conference as of now, which is in December. So the planning will start like end of this month or October. So it's a breast only Congress. So we're going to test out the solution, get the feedback, improve the system. But yeah, it's all about developing the processes so that way they can be executed. So that's what we're doing right now, developing the process for how to use the software, who's the users, the user groups and the user stories. So where we have a business analyst that's kind of working on that, but I'm also helping with that, as well as just in the beginning, it was just making a lot of the business case for this. Like when I came in, not everyone was convinced still, but now it's more so of actually helping with the implementation of it and then managing the day-to-day of it.
Okay. Excellent. And as if anyone's watching and they want to, let's say, want to work in AstraZeneca, and because I'm assuming you started your internship in May, right?
Yeah, it's usually from May to August, most of the
Okay.
internships, and then sometimes you can get extended. It is really hard to land a full-time position right now at AstraZeneca, unless you want to move to Barcelona or Mississauga. Just because a lot of the entry-level roles are being put
Okay.
there. But even then, there's not a lot of openings right now. But I think
Somewhere
it's much easier for a master's student because we have this program called CLDP, Commercial Leadership Development Program. So if you want to go into the sales and marketing side of oncology, we have CLDP, which master's students can apply. It's very competitive, but if you get in, you can you basically like rotate throughout different parts of commercial. So market access and there's also like brand marketing. You could be in like insights and analytics. And then there's so many different teams in commercial. So you get to actually rotate throughout those teams as a commercial leadership development associate, which is you have to apply for it. It's like an internship, but it's like a longer term internship. So what I'm doing is an internship that got extended. And hopefully with this project, they might be bringing me as a contractor. But right now, it's quite hard, but I think the best way to get experience in the healthcare industry is to intern at a healthcare company. So if you really want to go into like healthcare, then you should intern at a pharma company. I mean, there's so many. AstraZeneca is just one of many. So I mean, there's so many opportunities, especially in the US. All of these major pharma companies have like a big office and presence here. Ours is primarily in Gaithersburg. Like that's where most of we have like 150 interns in Gaithersburg, Maryland this year. So and then our sites have interns too. So if you're a science major and you want to contribute to the manufacturing side, like we have a site here in Copello that makes Lokelma, which removes sotacium from the kidneys. We had 2 interns there this summer. So if you're a scientific major, then you can intern at the sites. But if you're interested in a more of a commercial role, like in sales and marketing or in or in the business unit in general, because there's the biopharma business unit, there's the oncology business unit, and there's so many things you can do in the business unit. So for those, you have to be at an HQ facing role, which would be in Gaithersburg or Wilmington, Delaware, or Boston for Alexion.
Okay. Anyone else have any questions? Tina, do you have any questions?
Very, very impressive.
Yeah.
I'm so happy to see you.
That was a really good presentation.
Professional, yeah, from a leader from the lab to become such a mature professional. Good
Thank you
lab.
so much.
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing.